formula, it of course will give that particular function, it will let you know what, of course, is available in that particular category. And if we were to go through every single function, of course, it would take quite a bit of time. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on the insert function. We're going to look at your auto sum, your recently used. We're going to look at some financial functions, and then we're going to utilize a lookup and reference function. So let's start with the insert function. When you click on insert function, what this does is it gives you the ability here where you can type in a description, or you can select a category as it relates to a particular function. And once you locate that function, you'll notice here, for example, Vlookup is highlighted in the select function area. Down below, it will give you the formula for that particular function and also what it's used for. So this is definitely useful when you're looking for a particular function and you're not really certain as to where it's located. You, of course, can use your insert function. Now, the next area is your auto sum. Now, with the auto sum, you can actually sum your information. You can get an average, count numbers, get your maximum in, and this, of course, is for a column or a row. And when you click here on more functions, you'll notice you get that insert function box here. And this is, like I said, where you can search based on the description, or you can search based on a category. So it's definitely very useful. Now let's talk about how we would sum our information on our spreadsheet. So if we wanted to get a sum of the total assets, the first thing, of course, you want to do is position your cursor where you would like the result to appear. After you do that, we'll go up to Auto Sum, and we'll select Sum. Now, you'll notice that it basically gave us the sum for this particular column, but something different happened. Notice there's a drop-down over to the right-hand side, and this is because I have the information set up in a table. So because it's set up in a table, what it did is it added a total row. So now if I wanted to change this from a sum to an average, for example, I can click on average, and now I have an average. So now I don't have to even type in a formula or anything of that nature. I can go to Account Prior Year Assets, click on the drop down and say, okay, well, I want to get the sum for that particular area. Notice here you can click on the drop down, and you also notice at the bottom you have more functions that brings up that insert function box. Now, if you wanted to just type out the formula as it relates to a sum, of course you can equal and type that formula out. But, of course, using the auto sum is a easy function to utilize because you don't have to worry about knowing the formula. And also, when you use the formula bar, you'll notice that you don't have to know the formula. It basically will bring up the dialog box and you put in the information. So I'll talk about that once we get to that particular area. Now let's look at your recently used. When you click on the drop down for your recently used, what this will show you are all of the functions that you've recently used. And down at the bottom here, you have that insert function box. So you can tell that it is a helpful box to utilize when you're looking for a particular function. Now let's go over to this next area where we're going to look and solve for the future value and also the present value. Now with the future value, this calculates the future value of an investment, and the present value is used to determine the initial investment amount. So we're going to solve for the future value. So I'm going to position my cursor here. You'll notice I have the annual interest rate, the number of years, and also the initial deposit amount. I'm going to position my cursor where I would like the result to appear, and this, of course, is a financial function, where when you click on the drop-down here, you'll look for the function, which is future value. You'll also note that they're in alpha order. So once I click on future value, I'll get the arguments box. So this is where I was saying you don't really have to know the formula because it's automatically going to bring it up in the arguments box. Now, another thing that you'll see about the arguments box is that wherever your cursor is positioned, down at the bottom here, it gives you an example of what it's looking for. So it's telling us that the rate is the interest rate per period. And it's giving us an example of that. So it's looking for the interest rate here. Now, you can do this one of two ways. The interest rate is in cell A2, information over to the right-hand side. So now I'm looking for the number of periods, so that, of course, is 10 years. And then it's looking for a payment. So in this case, there is not a payment, so I'll put 0 there. And then it's looking for the present value. Now, the present value is the $10,000. But one thing I want to mention about the present value is that it is money going out. So it's a lump sum of money that's going out. So what we want to do is represent that as a negative C2. And that also gives us a positive result. So if we did not represent that as a negative C2, saying, okay, this is money going out, it would give us a negative result. And then it's looking for the type. There's no type that's involved, so we can either input 0 or omit that. And then once we click OK, it, of course, will return the result. Now, of course, we can solve for the other areas, but an easy way to solve for the other areas is to copy the formula down. And that's also a time saver. So we shouldn't have to go and input and do that all over again because we have it in this particular cell. You'll also note that once I position my cursor in the cell that it shows you the formula here in the formula bar. So now I'm going to copy the formula down to the other cells by going to the right of the formula. And once it turns into that plus sign, I can drag down, and now I have the result for each one of the areas. So notice how it automatically copies the information based upon this particular cell that we're in and also for the next. Now let's solve for your present value, which is where we're going to determine the initial investment amount. So we're going to go up to the financial area, and we're going to scroll down and find the present value. Now we have where we're going to input the rate. So this is our rate here, our number of periods. There's no payment involved here. The future value, we're going to use the future value that we saw for so that you can see that this is actually the information here. Now, with the future value, notice how I did not show that as money that's gone out. Notice how I have a negative, so I'm, of course, wanting to show that this is money going out, and by making it a negative, that's what we're doing. And notice that we have a positive result. There's no time type that's involved. We'll go ahead and click OK. And now we have our present value, which is $10,000, and we know that because here is the initial investment amount. Now, just as we did for the future value, we can copy the information down by going to the right corner. Once it turns to that plus sign, we want to click and hold it, the left mouse button, and drag down, and now we have the result. All right, let's look at our next formula.